right. Well, thank you everybody for your flexibility, and we'll try to be brief. The forecast that comes out is good news. This is very good news, and this is a very positive sign. We were a little bit reluctant to cheerlead last fall a surplus just in case things didn't go as well as we had expected or had hoped. This now shows, you can see yet again by the chart, we have now two good reports that not only is our economy getting better, but we do have a budget surplus now. Yes, you can say that we need to pay back the shift, and in fact we are starting to pay back that education shift, but this is good fiscal management by the House and Senate Republican caucuses to produce a $1.19 or $1.2 billion budget surplus. This is good news not only to the taxpayers of the state, it's also good news to the business owners in the state that they can now feel comfortable that our state plan is not only budget is balanced for this biennium, but we will start on the next biennium. We've made good progress on that. But as we said before, we're not going to stop until it is not only budget neutral, but even producing a surplus in the out biennium. So a very good news day. Minnesotans should be very proud of themselves. Had nothing to do with government. This is hardworking Minnesotans producing more income, more revenue for the state of Minnesota. We thank them for that, and we'll continue to do our job to manage our fiscal house in a way that produces even bigger surpluses.
And thank you. And I'm just going to pick up a little bit of what Kurt has already said. This is great news. This is great news for Minnesota, and to my way of thinking, and I suggest, or for the thinking of most of Minnesota, it's a reaffirmation that the Republican plan is working. We worked very, very hard during the course of last session to set us on this course. The course has been established. The plan is working. It's reflected in these numbers here, and we're excited, we're proud, we're happy. Things are moving in the right direction for Minnesota, and as you think about where we were in terms of a $6.2 billion deficit, a $5 billion deficit, and now looking at a literally added up $1.2 billion surplus, that's very, very positive, and that's something I think we can all be excited about. The other thing I think we're especially excited about is that we're able to, in this early recovery period, begin to pay back that school shift at about $318 million. That's going to be positive money going into the schools of Minnesota. That's going to be welcomed. It's certainly welcomed on our side. We didn't like the shift in the first place, but going forward now we're going to, again, beginning checks out to the state of Minnesota in terms of the school districts, and I rather suggest and believe they're going to be very, very happy about that. So I would only say this at this point. Let's keep this going. I would suggest to the other side, let's work together. Let's keep the momentum going. Let's push forward. I think we can. I think we can do a lot of positive things for Minnesota as we move through the rest of this session. But moving forward, the emphasis has to be on making our state as great as it can be. We do that through good fiscal policy, as is obvious. Senator Bach, all involved, Representative Thiessen, let's work together and continue this momentum. Senator Ortman.
Well, you all know the budget forecast is just one measure of how our economy is doing in the state of Minnesota, but this measure says we're doing very well. We also have to ask our families and our businesses how they're doing. We want to see growth in the private sector as well, but this is really good news. It says that our fiscal discipline measures are working here at the state capitol. We started last year with a $5.2 billion deficit. Now we're reporting a surplus of over $1 billion. We've made our commitment, we've fulfilled our mandate to turn around what was happening with state government spending, and I think Minnesotans can be proud, and I hope we'll continue to stay the course and look for more positive news going forward. So with that, I'm proud to be here. I know that folks here are happy to answer any questions that you have.
Mr. Majority Leader, the Democrats will say that President Obama's stimulus package had a heck of a lot more to do with this turnaround than your program of fiscal restraint. How would you respond to that?
I'm going to suggest that what we did last July and before that, those policies I think have developed and continue to develop a degree of positivity in Minnesota that is carrying us forward. What happens in Washington, well, that's what happens in Washington. But I think by and large, our employers, and Kurt and I and Senator Ortman have seen it as we've gone out talking to employers. Just get out of our way, let us work, let us do our things, keep the taxes down, cut the regulations, and we're going to be just fine, and we're going to go and we're going to grow. And I think that's what's happening. I'm not going to suggest that and agree with what the Democrats are saying relative to the federal policies and whatever those stimuluses are, because I don't think we've seen them yet. I think the positive things that have happened here have happened right here in the state capitol.
You're also the chair of the bonding committee in the Senate. We know our debt capacity is $1.9 billion, but all the discussion has been around about a $750 million bonding bill, and that's actually what the 10-year average would be. If you're actually interested in stimulating the economy, wouldn't a larger bonding bill do that?
I don't, I'm not necessarily going to buy into that one right away. I mean, we did a $500 million bonding bill in July. Is that working for us? It perhaps is in some cases, but I'm not sure that's the jump start to what we're seeing here today. Those bonding projects, they're good. We need them for the right reasons, not for jobs. We need them because we need to fix up our infrastructure. But to the extent they add jobs, okay. But the idea that we can buy ourselves, frankly, into a new economy is not our philosophy. We buy ourselves we move into a new economy rather by job growth and new employment and expansion of businesses and all those positive things. That's the way we grow Minnesota. And I think that's to some extent what's happening here today.
Are your caucuses committed to doing what the statute now requires, to use this additional money for paying down the school shift, or is there some pressure in your caucuses to divert some portion of that for property tax relief or some other kind of measure?
Well, I think the first and foremost thing is that we're not interested in any new spending. I think if you look at between the two forecasts, government spending was down in November about $348 million. It's down again in February, $230 million. Again, if you restrain it, we don't have a revenue problem. We have a spending problem. So I don't think our members are at all interested or looking to spend any new money. We've done what a lot of, we talked from the bond houses, you talk to folks that look at a fiscal management plan. You first fill up your cash flow account. You second, you fill up that budget reserve. We've done that. And by statute, we started to pay back the education shift. I think those are three good things that we're very positive on today. We were a little reluctant to jump up and down and cheerlead, and I don't know that Dave and I are going to jump today, but we now feel very secure and very confident in how our economy is turning around and how our budget is turned around. So we're on a good course now, but I don't know that new spending is the first thing we're going to talk about today.
Just to follow up, does that mean no new tax expenditures as well, and by way of tax cuts for business property taxes or some other kind of tax cut?
Again, it's an expenditure, as on the books. We're not interested in any spending just today. We'll look at a lot of different proposals, but we think good financial management, again, cash flow, budget reserves, and paying down that education shift. We're getting close to paying off our portion of it, and then we'll start on the Democrats' portion of the education shift.
Senator Senjem, back to the bonding bill. Governor wants one about $775 million. Can you give us a sense of what you think the size of the one that comes out of your committee will be?
I'm not going to do that today because, for one, Kurt and I haven't talked about it. I haven't talked about it to any great degree with Representative Howes. I think it'd be premature to do that. We'll have a nice bonding bill. It probably won't certainly reach the governor's number, but we'll have a nice, good bill, and we'll do good things for Minnesota.
Who's responsible for this improvement? At one point you said, caucuses, Republican caucuses are doing things right, but then you said it wasn't government, it was Minnesotans. Did government help create this improvement or not?
I think on the one hand, yes, by staying out of business owners, but by not raising taxes on business owners. Some of the increased revenue is from income taxes. You raise taxes, you can look at the Maryland example, you can look at Illinois. Most recently, you raise taxes, you never hit the number that you want. If you want $1 billion in tax increases from revenue, you don't ever hit the number. And that's not my Republican philosophy opinion, that's the math. You can look at Maryland, you can look at Illinois, you can look at Washington State, you can look at New Jersey, all these examples where they expected if you raise taxes, you'll hit this number. We didn't raise taxes, we collected more in revenue. So from that standpoint, I guess you could say that technically we have helped, but the hardworking business women and men of the great state have done a lot of this, and what they have asked, as Senator Senjem said, is just, calm the waters, balance your budget. We'll then feel confident that you're not going to come back with a new fee, a new tax, some way to ask for more money from us. If they feel confident that the government's not going to come and ask them for more money, they're going to invest in their businesses. Our unemployment rate right now is 2.8% lower than the national average. We are, on average, 1.4% below the national average. So we are twice as good as we usually are, and I think that's a good indicator as to what we need to do, keep doing. We need to keep dropping our unemployment rate. If government doesn't add new regulations, and in fact, what you'll see out of this session is some reduced regulations to encourage that growth, we believe that the private sector job growth is where we will continue to see this recovery. But if you want to go back to development of political thought in college, I'll be on that road with you, that by not adding to the burden, by not adding to a tax increase, yes, in that sense, we in government have helped. And I think that is what the Republican caucus has brought to this, is we're not going to raise taxes, we're not going to add to the burden, and we're not going to make it harder to do business in Minnesota.
Mr. Speaker and Mr. Majority Leader, given that you don't have to make any budget adjustments, according to this forecast, is your intent then to finish the legislative session early, maybe sometime in April?
Well, I mean, again, we've got some regulatory things we're working on with the governor. We've got some, I believe there's still a couple of reform items out there. The last in, first out proposal, I think, is something that most Minnesotans from all demographic areas, from all geographic areas in the state see as a very positive thing. And we've seen some editorials on that say it's a good idea to start down that road. I think we'll probably get those things done, but we've been cheerleaders for getting done early and not wasting taxpayer dollars. So if it's the first week in April, as Senator Bach has said, if it's the 8th of April, we intend to be out of here early.
And Mr. Leader, if you don't mind, same question.
And we've talked about this a little bit. I've suggested we maybe think in terms of a little bit more of a full court press towards getting our work done and moving on through. We want to do the work well. We want to do the work that needs to be done. But in my view, I'm hopeful we can accelerate it. And again, whether it's the first part of April, mid-April, or whatever, certainly not May. Certainly not May, in my view. But the earlier the better. And every leader, so to speak, that's ever stood at this microphone has answered it in that fashion. But I think seriously we can do that, and we ought to do that. And from the standpoint of our caucus, we're going to be working in that direction.
And you won't hang around for a Viking stadium? Hold question for both of you.
We don't even have a bill, so that's premature as well. I think most of it can say, and I don't know what will happen this week, but week after week we've not seen a bill, and whether we see one this week, I don't know. So I don't think we'll hang around too long if there's any indication there's not going to be a bill.
The same question, if you don't mind.
No. How's that? All right. We want to be respectful. I think the governor was at 12:45. Thank you guys for letting us kind of move up the schedule. Any questions you have afterwards, we'll be happy to answer, but we want to be respectful of the governor's time. Let him cheerlead the good news too. Thanks, everybody.